Good morning, students. I have been posting videos every couple days to help you with the writing process. If you're in the midst of that, that's great. If you are not doing that now, as far as I know, we'll be continuing that when we get back, unless we get other directives from the district. But I wanted to be able to keep you on a roll with what we were doing before we left. And so I'm finally up to the body paragraphs. For those of you who were in my honors classes and you were already here, thank you for your patience. I had to make all the other videos for everyone else to try to get everyone to the same spot. Now, there are a couple things to pay attention to as you write your body paragraphs. You want to try to make sure that you unfold the story, or if you're in my honors, the stories plural, as you go. So you do that by providing context around the things that you're talking about. The biggest mistake that most people make when they're writing an essay is that they think that their reader has a knowledge of what they're talking about. And the reality is, oftentimes, your reader is not expected to have that knowledge. They're looking to what you're writing to gain some knowledge. What do I mean by that? Don't assume that they've read the story or stories, plural. So your job is to give them the complete context of whatever it is that you're sharing with them. I am not going to go through the entire body paragraph. I am going to go through introducing your main point of the paragraph, then providing evidence and explanation and weaving context into it with just a first, maybe a second example, just for your sake. Because whatever I model here, I want you to try to do on your own. Then if you have questions, you can contact me via Google Classroom or via email, and I'll do my best to help you out with that. I'll look over what you have written and give you some feedback. So, when you are looking at your body paragraphs, we want to look back, of course, to our graphic organizer. And remember, oops, I knocked the camera. My first body paragraph is all focused around the physical adversities, the external conflicts that Buck overcomes and therefore gains success throughout the story with those adversities. So the first point that I will make will be the physical adversities and how it's necessary for Buck to overcome those. And the first example that I'll use is the man in the red sweater. So this was my original organizer. Then I go and I take a look at my outline. So again, the first point that I was trying to make is right there. Now, like you, I do not have the book home with me, which presents a little bit of a problem because in reality, when you're doing literary analysis, it's best practice for you to have the text so you can give direct text citations. You can also paraphrase, but in the best case scenario, you mix the two. Now, if you did a good job collecting your text citations to begin with, you'll have some of those to reference. I do have a draft that I already started where I do have some of those text citations, but I don't have them for the entire thing. So as I go, I'm going to weave together direct text citation and paraphrasing, along with the context to explain to my readers how and why things are happening and unfolding in the story and how that helps show that he has overcome some external conflicts and that helps him be successful. Okay, So the first thing that I have to do in this body paragraph, in any body paragraph, is to remind the reader what the focus of that paragraph is going to be. The first reason. Mine, of course, is the physical adversities that he overcomes help him be successful. And I tie it back to my thesis. What we don't do is narrate. My first main point is we don't do that. That's weak writing for multiple reasons. Instead, we just give the first main reason, our first argument. So, the physical adversities Buck faces in the Call of the Wild help demonstrate the theme by showing that physical adversities Buck faces in the Call of the Wild help demonstrate the theme by showing that I'm stuck. Okay, I think I got it. Even the toughest circumstances can be overcome. And, comma, if you start with an and, it's like an interjection, you need that comma there. It is through these conflicts that Buck grows stronger and learns how to face the hardships yet to come. If he did not overcome the physical conflicts, he would not gain the strength and resolve necessary to be successful in the future. Okay, I'm not 100% happy with this, but I'm going to kind of explain what I did there. So again, I didn't say my first main point is that Buck faces physical adversities. That's the topic of the point, but the actual point is that he needs to face those physical adversities and he needs to overcome them so that he can be successful. So I need to explain that. I could have said it that plainly, but I've said this before. I'm kind of wordy and this is what I got. So that's me putting in the first main point. Now, you can tell that it is supporting my argument, my thesis, because my whole point of the essay is that you need to overcome adversities to be successful. That would be Jack London's theme for the novel. So I wove that in, overcome, successful. I used some of those words, but I didn't say, this supports the theme of overcoming adversity to be successful because. You could do that, but that's really formulaic. So instead, you try to explain how it supports that. Now, before I can give my first piece of evidence, I need to give context. Because again, my reader can't guarantee in any way, shape, or form that they have any idea what the book is about. So personally, I like unfolding the story from the beginning. I tend to give my main points in order from when they happened to unfold throughout the course of the story, at least in accordance with what's going on. So physical adversities, I'll start with the beginning of the story and then unfold that. Then the mental adversities, I'll start with the beginning of the story and unfold that. So I'm going to give some context first. That won't go in the actual writing. I'm writing this off to the side. So it's part of like my notes for you. So I'm going to tell my readers what they need to know. The novel begins with a look at Buck's life in sunny Southern California. London, the author, never refer to them by their first name because you don't know them, describes Buck's life there as ideal. Semicolon. He lives on a great estate and wants for nothing. He is a favorite pet. He's described as, now I'm going to pause here for a quick second. This is not my text evidence, but I am using some direct evidence from the text here to back up my point. The more text evidence that you can give, the more references to the text, I should say, help back up your credibility. So, he's described as king over all, creeping, crawling, lying things of Judge Miller's place. Humans included. Now, when I put in a direct quote from the text, I start it with the comma. Since I didn't start in the beginning of a sentence, I use my ellipsis, the 3 dots, quotation marks, put in the part that I want to include. When you're doing an in-text citation, you end, then put parentheses, author's name, page number, if you've got it. If you don't, it's okay for now, because we are not in the most ideal circumstances, and then punctuation. The only time you'd put punctuation in here is if it's included in the quotation. Okay? So, again, this is not my actual piece of evidence. This is just me describing and providing context for my reader. Now I explain a little bit more. Quickly, though, London shifts narrative and Buck is dog-napped. Not 100% sure that's a word, but I'm using it for now. By a disgruntled worker and sold to be a sled dog in the Yukon Territory. In modern day Canada. This here is me giving the context. Now my reader has an idea of how the story starts. So, then I have to go into the physical adversities that he faces. You don't just throw in the text citation. I can't just say, the man with a red sweater mistreats him, or whatever the actual quote is. I have to lead into it. Now, you're like, but you've already led into it. You gave some context. I didn't switch over to the man in the red sweater yet. So, Buck is sold first to a man identified as a man with a red sweater. And it is at this point in the story his physical adversities begin. Context. My readers are now being brought along with the story. Now I make my point. The first point, remember, is about the man in the red sweater, but I had to get my reader there. This is how you get them there. You explain a little bit. Did I give the whole story here? No. I'm going to let it unfold piece by piece by piece. Now, I put more than perhaps you will put, but I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm wordy. When Buck first meets this man, I was going to say the man, this man, he is immediately beaten with a club. Immediately beaten, immediately brutally beaten. Why and brutally? With a club. Initially, he tries to fight back, but each time the club smashed him down. Now, that right there is my first piece of evidence. What I did there was I actually provided a combination of a paraphrase and a text citation. And here's why, if you're wondering. The part where he's beaten takes place over 4 pages. While if you're writing like a 20-page paper, you might want to include the whole thing, or at least more than I did. For the fact that I'm writing a short essay, I don't want to do that. So I paraphrased first, and then I included a little bit of the actual event, smashed him down. So I need to move on to the next side, which I left myself just a few lines. I can't just leave it at that. I need to add in a little bit more because I have him being smashed down. If I'm trying to show that he's overcoming his adversity, I need to show that too. So, by the end of that altercation, fancy word there, Buck realizes that comma there. Text citation. A man with a club was a lawgiver. A master to be obeyed. So, to save himself, he chooses to back down. There is my explanation of the first physical incident. Now I have to do my part in explaining why that matters. Before this experience, Buck had never had to face such physical adversity. So, this experience required that he learn to adapt his environment or perish, die. And I just didn't want to write die. The experience of being physically beaten would have made others give up. Buck did not. He learned from it and in turn lived to see another day. Sometimes overcoming physical conflicts isn't that I want to say you are the winner, so to speak, but that you learn what it takes to survive. I should not use you. Right now I don't have something better. So I'm circling that for myself so I know to change it. Though man seems to be victorious, Buck's wise choice provides him opportunity to live and fight another day. Hi. Okay. Now, what I did through there is I gave the whole first main point. You only do that once per paragraph. Then I gave some context and gave my evidence. Notice that, remember, this says ACE, I just forgot to change it to CER, claim evidence reasoning. So this would be evidence. This should also say the second piece of evidence. I am not perfect. I make errors. So now you do this part and this part repeatedly for your next two pieces of evidence for that paragraph. And that's all. You sum it up. For your second body paragraph, you'll do the same kind of thing. For the second body paragraph, I'll work with the mental and emotional adversities, and I'll outline them that way. But our video is already 28 minutes long, so I'm going to cut this off. Give it a shot. If you have further questions, please message me and let me know. Okay? All right. I hope you're all enjoying your day. Talk to you soon.